I have a feeling there's a lot of excitement about the prospect of the renewal of Turkish-Israeli ties. And I think that's, I'm sure most of us in this room would like to see it happen. Most of us, I think, remember the great days of particularly the 1990s when the relationship was so close. And I think in many ways, for those of us who lived in Washington, it was a great thing, and it certainly tightened bonds, I believe, between the Jewish and the Turkish-American communities. I would like to, however, talk a little bit about why I think we should hold our excitement in check for now, much as I hope that relations renew as soon as possible. I think what has really recently, there's been a lot of very positive signs recently over the last couple of months. Erdogan saying Israel and Turkey need each other. I think that was the big galvanizing statement that really made people think it was serious. And of course, there was the report in the New York Times and the Israeli press about the outlines of an agreement. And there was a sense, as in December already, that renewal of ties was imminent. I think it's important to remember that this is not the first time since Mavi Marmara that we've thought that renewal of ties were imminent. In 2013, President Obama went to Israel, I think everyone remembers, and Bibi Netanyahu called Erdogan and apologized. And I think people thought after that relations would move very quickly. In mid-2014, there were reports not dissimilar to what had sprang up at the end of 2015, that there was an agreement. There was a draft agreement. And it never happened. So, again, I think we have to keep in mind that, look, it may happen. I hope it happens soon. But I tried to look at it just as a cost-benefit analysis, mainly from the Israeli side. And I'm not sure it adds up as well as we would all like. I mean, first of all, it seems that, according to press reports, Egypt was very concerned about the prospect of Turkey getting involved in Gaza. And Israel and Egypt have very close relations right now, the closest they've ever been at the security level. And of course, the major focus of those security relations is Gaza, where Hamas is, and Sinai, which is attached to Gaza, to which Gaza is attached, maybe is a better way to put it. I think Egypt's opinion will count for a lot in Israel. I don't know how strongly Egypt holds that opinion, but we know that there's not good blood between Cairo and Ankara. There have been reports that Russia did not want to see this happen. Russia is always, Russia's opinion is one I think Israel always has to take into account, but I think it's truer now than ever. Since September 30th, Russia is a neighbor to Israel in a way that it never was before. And obviously Israel has some very important arrangements with Russia in Syria, because otherwise I don't think Israel would have been able to stage attacks on Hezbollah assets in Syria, as it has done twice since the Russians moved into Syria. Turkey has developed good relations with Greece and Cyprus. It's always been careful to say, when I say Cyprus, the Republic of Cyprus, Greek Cypriot-controlled Republic of Cyprus. Israel's always careful to say at these meetings that the relations with Greece and Cyprus are not aimed at anyone and certainly not aimed at Turkey. And at the tripartite meeting that Netanyahu held with Cyprus and Anastasiades a few weeks ago, he made a point that he is still hopeful of selling gas rather to Turkey, and hopes to develop relations with Turkey. Nevertheless, Greece has actually kind of shockingly emerged as a friend to Israel in a way that is unexpected. It would have been unexpected by any Greek government, but certainly by such a left-wing Greek government, who was a government that was seen as very anti-Israel when it was elected. But lately, it has declined to go along with EU regulations on labeling Israeli goods that come from the occupied territories, and it helped to water down a peace process resolution from the EU, water it down in a less anti-Israel way. So these are Russia, Greece, Egypt. These have all emerged as important relations for Israel, and they are all probably naysayers, or at least will have to be satisfied on the renewal of relations. There's the issue of the 4 generals who were being prosecuted in absentia in Turkey. That was, of course, reported that it would have to be part of the agreement. I don't know if the Turkish government will be able to swing that. Perhaps they will, but I mean, it is noteworthy that IHH, the NGO, the Turkish NGO, which really drove the Mavi Marmara, the flotilla that headed to Gaza, as well as the families of those who died at the Mavi Marmara, have generally opposed ending the trial. Israel also, I don't know if they're going to do this when they had a certain issue of universal jurisdiction a few years ago in the UK. They actually asked for the UK to pass new legislation to make sure it couldn't happen again. And the UK ultimately did that. Could an AK Party government do that? I don't know. Will Israel ask for that? I don't know. But I think it's a tough issue. The defense minister of Israel made some strong statements recently about Turkey, accusing them, as Russia had, accusing Turkey, that is, of having purchased ISIS oil. He didn't go quite as far as the Russians did in saying it was Erdogan's family. And he said, we're going to have to be satisfied about Hamas before relations can be renewed. Israel has had some concerns about Hamas. There was a representative of Hamas who was in Istanbul. It's not clear if he's still there. He claimed credit. He was the one who actually announced that 3 Israeli youths who were murdered in the summer of 2014, which touched off the most recent Gaza war. He was the one who announced from Istanbul that Hamas had done it. He was also accused of having tried to foment a coup against Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority. There are a lot of things like this. I guess when I think about, gas, Israel does talk a lot about how it wants to sell its gas to Turkey. I saw it that Netanyahu, when he testified before Israel's Supreme Court recently about why the Supreme Court should accept a monopoly on the gas. And he said there are national security imperatives. And he said, if there's no monopoly, we won't be able to develop this gas. We won't be able to sell our gas to Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, or to Turkey. So, I mean, he certainly got that in mind. But I have to say, when I look at it, I'm not sure there's great urgency to this, because there can't be a pipeline until there's a settlement to the Cyprus problem, because the pipeline would have to go through Cyprus's what's known as economic exclusion zone. Probably Brenda talked about this, did you? A little bit. It could also go through Syrian and Lebanese waters. I think that's out of the question. So really, until a Cyprus settlement is close, I don't see a strong imperative for the selling of gas. Now, we all hope that there will be a Cyprus settlement soon. Look, all of this said, I think there are some, and I don't want to be, so downbeat. I know you'll never invite me again. But I think there are some things that may overcome these considerations. For one, and, I'll say this with humility, speaking about Israel with Brenda and Israeli on the panel, but, I've had a lot of experience working with Israelis over the years, and I've spent a lot of time in Israel, both personal time as well as professional. And look, I think Israel never lost its special feeling for Turkey. And I think it's always been something that's there. I remember one of my diplomat friends, this was Israeli diplomat friends around I would say it's probably 2012, 2013, said to me, we were talking about Turkish-Israeli relations, he said, I miss the Turks. And he meant it. And I think there is this really strong bond, and there's a lot of romanticism about the good old days, the really good old days of the 90s, which spilled over a bit into the Akbardi period. And in addition, Turkey gives Israel something very special. It's a large Muslim country that, when it had relations with Israel, accepted Israel in a way that no other Muslim country did. And I think that's also something very important for Israel psychologically, but not only psychologically, also in practical terms in the international arena. And I think Israel would like to renew that. Beyond that, again, I have a feeling maybe you talked about how, Brenda, there's been ongoing economic relations throughout this difficult period. Turkey's exports to Israel fell a bit in 2015. They fell in general around the world, but otherwise, Israeli Turkish trade has grown by leaps and bounds over the years, even during these very lean years. And one thing, for all the problems that there have been between Israel and the Akbardi government in Turkey, the one thing the Akbardi government has never done has never canceled the free trade agreement that came into force, that was signed in 1996. It's that's something that's very telling. I know some people say, my friend Güven Sak, whom I'm sure many of you know, say, hey, well, don't give the Turkish government credit for the fact that the trade has grown, because after all, Turkey and Israel are free trading countries, and they're market-oriented countries. You don't need specific permission from the government in order to make a deal. But look, I think if there weren't somewhat of a permissive atmosphere for it, from somewhat of a green light from the Turkish government, I think Turkish companies would hold back. But more than that, the fact that that free trade agreement, which is in many ways the centerpiece of the relationship, has endured, is very important. So I think it's a tough balance sheet for Israel. And I don't know, maybe, you know, I've been very busy lately. I have not had a chance to return the phone calls I've gotten from Tayyip and Bibi, so I haven't really had a chance to ask them personally. But I just wanted to raise some of these things because I think there's been a lot of excitement, and I think we need to look at the big picture, and we'll hope for the best, but keeping in mind that this could be a very difficult negotiation yet ahead. That's all. Thank you very much.